back again. Just want to introduce myself. I'm Grace. I'll be doing the workshop today, and we'll be making something three-dimensional out of different patterns and things that I've made here. So last week we were looking at how to incorporate mindfulness and mark making into drawing. So we created things that look like this, and then that's going to give inspiration for this week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right into it and show you what we're doing, because it might take a little bit longer because there's the mark making and then the making of the project. So I'm just going to zoom you in a bit closer so you can see what's going on. Okay, bear with me. Should be able to see a little bit better. I would recommend that you cover your table with something to make sure that whatever mess, because you might draw it off the edge of the paper and I don't want you to make a mess of the table. So, hang on, straighten that up a bit for you. Okay, so that was the drawing, one of the drawings that we've done before. So I'm going to show you how we're going to think about making marks this week. So rather than starting off with the feeling you're creating at the moment, like we did last week, this time we're going to think about just bringing in those positive feelings through the mark making. So as you can see on this piece of paper, I've started to draw different marks responding to, like, trying to bring in positivity and really thinking about the lines I'm creating. So, right, and then we'll do the other side, so then both sides are coloured in. So I've done a couple already. So this one, for instance, it's got both sides, and then I've even thought about putting a bit more detail in. So it's up to you if you want to use black and white. You can use colour. It's just that I think that for this particular project it works quite well. So, and then I've made different ones with, so in this one I've done both sides. It works quite well if the pattern's contrasting from one side to the other, so obviously they're not the same pattern on each side. So that one's been done both sides, that one's been done both sides, this one hasn't, these ones haven't. And I started adding extra lines into each pattern, which could be quite interesting. Just respond to how it works when you're doing it. So again, trying to bring in positive feelings. So just try and think about the marks that create calm when you're doing it. So we'll do a similar thing to last week and think, where am I starting? And I find that drawing slow and steady really helps to make me think rather than just get a bit stressed. So I'm going to draw over a piece of paper and I'm going to just draw stripes on this one. Done that the wrong way around because I'm going to smudge it if I do it that way. And just be mindful when you're doing the other side of your piece of paper not to put it back onto a bit of wet. So we're just going to draw stripes on here. And think about how slow, so if you're doing it fast, there's something quite fun about that. So they're fast lines, whereas what's the difference when you slow down when you're making those marks? Does it make you feel something different? Does it make the line different? Because I think a slower line in some ways can be a bit more wobbly. So now that one's done both sides. So you can either cut out pieces of paper and go to the edges like I have, or you can do it like I have on here. So I've just created lots of different shapes and patterns on here, and then you can use a craft knife or scissors, but just please be careful when you're using either of those, don't want any accidents, and then cut to the edges of the pattern that you create, because you want, when we create the shapes in the end, we want them to be full. So I've just cut to the edges of that, and then I'm going to turn it over and do something different. So on this side I've got stripes, so maybe I should do I quite liked this pattern I created, so I might do that on the other side, but I might do it with a thinner pen. So I'm just going to do that. Oh, where's the scrap piece of paper? Make sure that's not wet from before. It was. And then do like so. Thinking about the noises as well, the pen's making on the paper whilst you're doing it. The thing is with these exercises which I'm sharing with you from the last workshop and from today's workshop, you can really expand on them and really start getting detail into your drawings. You don't have to do them quickly like I'm showing you. I just want to make sure I cover as much as I can during the 45 minutes we've got. So you don't have to use Posca pens, which are these. You can use whatever pens you like, pencils, oil pastels, any of those. Right, so that's another one done. So we're just going to make a few of double-sided pieces. If you're struggling to make a pattern just on a bit of paper because you can't think of something to respond to, like last week we had the squiggles to respond to, so maybe it could be helpful. I'm taking my lids off and not putting them back on. Terrible. It's a bad habit, isn't it? But maybe what you could do is you could do your scribble like I did there, and then we can fill them in and then cut out the shape. So I'm going to do, so I can follow the line which was created by the mark. Yeah. Really focusing on lines this week. Oh, that's nice. Something quite nice about the wobbly line you make when it's not quite perfect. But just try and think about how different shapes make you feel, and how if you're getting frustrated by drawing a certain line, don't do it. So if you're finding that, oh, they're not circular enough, oh, it's not straight enough, try something else. But sometimes it works really well just having something which is a little bit imperfect. And we really want to get away from the whole precious side of art. I feel like that could be quite good during this session. I've got a bullet pen, I think that's what you call them. No, chisel tip, sorry. Chisel shaped pen, Posca pen. And these are quite nice because you can stamp them. So I'm going to go over the edge of the shape here, because that will give me full shape for later. I'm going to draw some stripes in this one. And because we're cutting them out, it doesn't matter if you go over the edges. Hello everybody, nice to see you today. And I would say you want a mixture of large and small shapes, and then once we've got a few of these shapes sorted, I can show you how we're going to make the 3D element. Hopefully you've all seen the photograph which is on the Art Course Facebook page. Go over that one because it's not quite full. There you go. You might even want some just black areas, so just colour in some black. Again, you can use a white pen to add something to your shape, so if you want to add some crisscrosses or anything like that, you can do. You can get more detail into these. So these ones are all double-sided. Makes your eyes go a bit funny, I'm sorry, there's a lot of pattern going on there. And this one is still slightly wet, but I've done both sides of that one as well. As you can see on this one, I've added more detail. But I'm going to do the other side now. Because this is quite straight, well, not quite straight, it's quite a natural straight line rather than being perfect. As I said, it's not all about being perfect in these exercises. I'm going to do some squiggles on the other side. think about how slow or fast you're making the mark and how that changes the way the line looks and how that makes you feel as well. I find making these loops so relaxing, and circles and colouring them in really relaxing, and stripes, but other people find them frustrating, so you've really got to think about what makes you feel good. And another way of making your mind think a little bit is you go one way and then the other. Somehow it feels a bit strange at first. Oh, one way and then the other. And back. So filling right to the edges. You might smudge it a little bit, it really doesn't matter. I just think when it all comes together you'll understand what I mean. So we're just making sure that both sides of your paper is full. If you're struggling, then you can do this technique with the scribble to respond to the shape, and then you can, rather than cutting out a square like I have for those, you follow the shape round. Oh. So think of these Posca pens, they don't dry very quickly. That's why I've tried to do a few drawings before we started, because you have to do both sides. So what's quite nice about this way is now I have a shape. Don't have to think about the shape that I'm going to create. I've got it already. So I'm just using the craft knife because I find it easier, but scissors are absolutely fine. So now I've cut that out, I can do the other side with my scrap bit of paper underneath. That side's quite empty, so think about making something quite full on the other side. I don't think that's quite full enough, so I'm going to just go over it again. I wonder if it's just me who likes the sound of pens on paper. I'm sure there's other people out there who think the same. I want to say thank you for everybody who shared their drawings last week. It was lovely to see how everybody had not just copied what I was doing, but all done your own thing, which was really nice. So this is another one I've done and added smaller lines. But on this one, because it's not full over here, I'm going to cut off this area. So then when we fill the other side, there's not going to be big edges when we cut the shapes out. So I'm going to do some dots on this one. You can use any mark making techniques you want. You don't have to do just drawing. You can do painting, you can do oil pastels, you can use your ink, you could even get an old painting which you didn't quite like and then we can cut it up and put it back together. But paper wise today I'm using cartridge paper. Don't know how many GSM it is. Hang on. 220 GSM, if that helps. So it's quite a thick cartridge paper. You could just use card. You could use paper and then glue it onto some cereal boxes if you haven't got anything else. Really just using what you've got and really not being too precious about what you're making, because sometimes I think we can all be too neat and tidy. And if any of you know me, when it comes to making art, I'm not into little tiny neat drawings, normally a very large scale. So just mindful that how long we've been going. 15 minutes. Oh, we're doing quite well. Last week I felt like rushed at the end, so I just don't want that to happen this week. Again, you can use colour and you can do however you like. Right, so that's that piece. Right, now I've got some pieces of paper which are all done on both sides. I will go back to the mark making, but I just want to show you how we're going to make something 3D out of this. So all of these ones, both sides are done. So it's up to you really how you want to go about cutting out the shapes. You can be quite neat and precise and use like a stencil and you do something quite small. You can do something quite big, you can even use something to draw around. Or you can be free like we did with the scribble last week. I'm going to try and just draw a random shape. You can even draw with your craft knife, so rather than drawing the shape out and then following the line, you can just go for it. It depends how confident you are. Move these out of the way because I think it might make you all feel a bit dizzy. Right, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about what kind of shape would bring me happiness. So I would think something bubbly. If you want to feel, or you could do the same as last week and thinking about how you are feeling right now and how you want to feel. So I'm going to draw a blob. Don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. Just round like that. And I'm going to just follow that line. Sorry, just concentrating whilst I'm cutting. Make sure you've got something underneath when you're cutting with a craft knife. You don't want to damage your tables. I've just got this cutting mat which I've had for years. I think it was just off Amazon or something like that. I don't know if it's even got a brand. A2 this size, but it's quite handy to have a bigger one. And then round, like so. So the first pieces, which are your base pieces, will need a flat bottom, but we'll make the flat bottoms afterwards. Just want to get some shapes, so that'll be used somewhere else, so don't want that to be on the base next to it. Maybe use that one as well. Could use this one. That's already got a flat bottom, so that could work. And I'm going to make another blob out of this one. It's really hard to see where I've drawn that because it's so busy. So it might have been worth drawing on the other side. You learn during the whole process what works for you and what doesn't. So please just react to how you like to work and don't think too much. Oh, that's how Grace did it. Have we got anybody joining us from around the world today? Last week we had some people, I think it was, I can't remember where it's from now. It's Switzerland, I think. And it's a beautiful day here I'm in Loughborough, nice and sunny, which always makes you feel a bit better, doesn't it? See, the straight lines against the curvy edges work really well. So rather than following the shape like you did, say, on this one, it can work quite well cutting through the shape with these straight lines. Right, so now let's start the whole building process. So just think about, do you want something wide, do you want something tall, do you want something, oh, I don't know, and there's lots of options. So it's quite good to have a sturdy base at the bottom. So I'm going to use this just here, and then I'm going to create a straight line for the base, like so. And then I'm going to, see here, it's lost a bit of its curve, so I'm going to cut it back out a bit of that curve, like so. Just creates a bit more of an interesting shape. I think this might be used further up because it's quite a nice shape. And then this one, I think will go in there like so. I'm going to make this a bit rounder. I haven't overwhelmed you with all the options I've given you this week, but I just want to make sure that everybody does what works for them rather than So, I don't know whether any of you have made the Christmas trees when you were little at school, and they cross over, so you have to cut a slit in this bit and a slit in that bit, and then they cross and they meet. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to cut a slit here, about halfway down. I'm going to cut a slit in, that was the bottom, this bit. An estimate, I kind of go about that. You can be precise and measure it if you like, but it's up to you. Really? See what works for you. The thicker your card, the bigger the slit, the thicker the slit will need to be, but using this type of card. And then we just want to make sure they meet at the bottom so it's flat, like, oh, that one's gone wonky. Yep, that's fine, like that. And then we'll do the next bit. Can that go straighter? Yep, that's fine though, it's standing. We'll do another bit here. I think we need something quite long for this edge here. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to cut a line down straight there. You can all see. And I'm going to cut a line out that much high. There. It's not quite high enough, so we need to cut it a bit higher. The more you do this, the easier it gets. Like once you get into the swing of things, it does get easier. So just bear with it a little bit if you're struggling to make yours balance. So far we've got something that looks like this. That feels quite secure. I think I need one more cross section to go through that middle bit there, and it needs quite a flat bottom. So that could look quite nice, that one there. So I'm going to do cut out another section. I'm going to cut that bit can go there, that bit can go I'm going to cut through that one down like so. Think about the angle you create in the cut, so 90-degree angle, right angle, because then they'll sit flat easier. That one can go down like that. Every single time I've made one of these, they all turn out different, which is so nice, because none of them are going to be the same. And then sometimes it's quite nice to do a cross between those two. I think that would work quite well. So between those two, just to make it more secure. So I'm going to do, I could use this one actually. Do it half in the air. Just make a little mark here. And yeah. There. Where did I make that mark? Lovely. And then make the same mark again. Where was it? We'll get some height to this in a minute. So that will go there. There. And there. So as you can see, we're starting to get a bit of a structure now. Hope you're all able to follow along. This one's not quite balancing on the edge, so I'm going to bend that a bit. That one needs to get rid of the tail, so I'm going to cut that edge off. Like that. Quite sturdy now, that's not going anywhere. I would say the bigger pieces need to be used at the bottom, and then the smaller pieces get used at the top. Right, so I've got some more pieces here which are ready to cut out. So I'm going to create something quite long. Because I'm thinking it can go up like that. You can do a mixture of shapes, you don't have to do all squiggles, you can do zigzags, you can do angular shapes, geometric shapes, you can do, like I said, you could do them all the same shape, which could be quite interesting. It's not something I've done before, but like you could use something to draw around and get them all the same. Just do whatever works for you. Right. Going to actually, I think it might look quite nice on there. Just see what works. How the patterns work against each other as well. So I'm going to do a slip there. Which would mean slip there. And that will mean slit. And then a slip there. Just take that out so it's just a bit easier to cut. Get the angles, mark them out, and then you can take them off, and then it's a bit easier to cut. Just please be mindful of using the craft knife. It can be easier if you're not used to using the craft knife to use scissors, so please do that if you're struggling with the knife. Again, we're just making this a bit more sturdy. Hopefully you can see that quite well. You can see why I was trying to be quick about showing you how to do the shapes in the beginning. This edge is quite nice, which I've created. So we could use that somehow. Really think about where you're going to put something. Just there to there. So that would need to go round and up. If you're still making your paper, don't worry, you can watch this back. Or you could have even cut up your drawings from last week to use for this week's one. That works quite well. So what I'm doing here, I'll show you on this side, is I'm marking so it would be straight there, so I know where to put my cut. And then so that's joined, I'm going to mark there, so I know where to put my cut. So I'm just going to hold that there, like so. The more crosses we have, the sturdier the sculpture will be. Got quite a few with you today. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't think I can see your comments again, unfortunately, but I'll make sure if you do comment, I'll make sure that I comment back later. So we're getting something quite interesting now. You see those shapes coming together? Probably easier if I held something plain behind it so you can see it all. Hang on. that's not playing. That's one of my granny's paintings. I had to see here, we're getting something together. I'm going to cut some smaller shapes out now. Quite like the way that it's low on one end and high on the other, so I might work a bit more with that. We'll just see how it goes. This one's a very strange shape I've just drawn on this piece of paper. Like I said, any questions you have, pop them in the comments and then I'll get back to you after I finish this live, because I don't know why, it just won't let me see them whilst we're doing it. So I'm just going to follow that round. Again, if you feel more comfortable with scissors, go ahead and use scissors. There's no problem with that. Bit like Matisse's blind drawings when he cuts with his scissors, really. And you could make these into a collage. I have done that before. So from using all these different pieces, they can become quite a nice collage. See, I've made a thinner piece now. I'm going to think about putting that on here. So get the pencil, think about a line that might go on. Go there, I think. Get a bit closer so you can see. It's quite difficult to show on here. Cut that there. Slot it in. Like I said, once you get the hang of it, it's relatively easy really. Makes something quite impressive, quite easily. I want a different pattern now. I think it'd be a shame not to use this one because it's got so much detail in, so I think I might create something going up. There, I think. Really not thinking too much about the shapes. Just, again, responding to how I'm feeling. Using your blade on this craft knife. You need to press quite hard. It's moving everywhere. Again, you don't have to do it all with, you can use different materials on your drawings. It's just difficult to show you everything all in one time. But you could have used your ink to create these drawings, you could have used the oil pastels, or you can just concentrate on just making a line, which I think works quite well. It's a very busy sculpture as it is, it doesn't need too much going on. Again, made another shape there. Pop that on. There, like that, I think. Draw my line up. Cut my line. And pop that on. Like so. It's coming together, this. I do like the way they all change. You just really don't know what you're going to get. Right, so we've used quite a lot of that one now. There's quite a lot of that one. I've got this one which I've put lines within lines, which is quite interesting. Maybe a couple of little things. The smaller the shapes, the harder they are to cut out really. But I would recommend doing quite large shapes on the bottom and then building up to smaller ones. You've got to make sure it's got some sort of balance across it all to make it work. You can do these as big as you like, really. You could even use cardboard and then paste stuff on it. Well, how about there? That looks quite good. Dim section. And pop that on. Little one just in the corner like that. And then I think something small on this one now. Let's have a think. It said small, that's not a very small shape I've just drawn on there, but like I said, I might put a bit of that just plain black in a minute because it might look quite nice, because again it's very busy. You could just use coloured cards. You don't even need to make the patterns on the paper first. You could just use coloured card and then cut them out. There's lots of different variations of these, so I really hope that you can share again what you've been making. I think you can email them into Artcore if you go on, or you could on Instagram. I don't really use Facebook for my art page, but if you go on grace_stones_art on Instagram, you can DM me your pictures of your things, and I'm sure I can somehow share them with Artcore as well. I'm sure that won't be any problem. That's quite a nice shape there, isn't it? Maybe that one around there looks a bit better. So I'm going to just draw the line that I need to cut. Oh. Like that. That works, I think. Quite proud of this. It's getting a bit heavy on this side, so I might put something on here just to make it even out a little bit. I haven't used this one, and I really liked those shapes. Just do the back of it though. Quickly do the back of one of these. As you can see, very precise as always. Then I'm going to do some, oh, where's my scrap paper? Don't want to get it everywhere. I want them to be quite loose lines. I want them to obviously not be straight, not too straight. I want it to be obvious that I haven't used a ruler. There's quite a few straight lines throughout the rest of it. Right. Oh, we've only got 5 minutes left. Go quite nicely there. I do find it easier to draw a shape first because you can be quite loose with a pencil, but it's quite hard to be loose with your scissors. But however it works for you, that's the most important thing. Right, there we go. So it works quite well, those natural lines there, rather than on there. I'm going to put that there. So we need line up. And then pop that down. What do you reckon? It's looking good. Going to do a couple more little bits whilst I've got a bit of time at the end. Going to try and draw with my knife and see what happens. Oh, that worked. Looks like a little alien or a butterfly antennae. Right, so I can go there. Like so. Slot that in. And I think we could put that at an angle. Maybe there. I think this might be one of my favourite ones I've made. I think I need something coming off this way now. I'm getting carried away on. Like I said, these things you can literally go on for ages trying to find what they need, or looks like that. Looks like a little worm. Maybe something across there. Have we done on the other side of that? No. Where's this one then? What do you reckon? There or there? Maybe there. Don't know why I'm asking because you can't reply, unfortunately. Right. Let me clear everything away so you can actually see what we've got. You can see why I prepared a bit the papers before I started, because it's a bit hard to do it all within the 45 minutes, but hopefully you've all got the idea and hopefully you will all be able to do something. If you're finding it hard, they're not balancing with one cut, like that one doesn't want to, if you use scissors to cut into the thing, that works well. Right, move that to the side. There's that plain paper gone again, so you can see what I've done. Well, we've done, for sure. Does that make life easier so you can see? You see? All those different patterns clashing work really well. There you go, that's better, isn't it? Oh, that bit fell off. But it's quite sturdy, really. And you can keep on growing your little pieces. I'll take a picture and I'll share it so you can see something with a blank background. But hopefully you've all been able to keep up as much as possible. And I can't wait to see what you've made. Hopefully some people have done some colourful ones, because I've always seemed to go black and white when it comes to these. Oh, sorry. There you go. It's back. It's me twisting it around too much. But thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we'll be able to do something else soon. And pop over onto my Instagram if you want to see any of my work, which I usually do as an artist. And thank you very much. See you soon. Thank you.